So we gather here this evening on this pause today. This tradition of the monastic and lay community practicing together, going back to the time of the Lord Buddha. So we can say it's a highly significant occasion. And in a spiritual inheritance that we've received, this tradition we can work with, practice with, be inspired by. And it can help at the beginning of a meditation practice to remember the Lord Buddha himself, remember his practice, his challenges, how he was able to overcome those challenges. His great realization underneath the Bodhi tree. Complete liberation from stress and suffering. And how he dedicated so much of his life after that point to supporting others in that same realization. We can remember the Dhamma which he awakened to. Timeless peace, always apparent and available here and now. Inviting, encouraging our investigation. To be experienced individually by each wise person. The inspiration and uplift of heart that can come from recollecting the Sangha. All those great practitioners who were able to overcome their own mental afflictions and find that peace within themselves. Many people before us who have walked that path, so we can have the faith that it's possible. We can have the faith that we can do it too. And we can remember our own teachers, Longpo Cha, Longpo Liam, Longpo Samedo. Their great commitment to truth, wisdom, goodness. How much we've inherited from them. This can bring up a sense of wanting to honour that gift and practice well this evening, to make good use of this opportunity that's come to us. And we start by coming home to the body, taking up full residence in the body. Bringing energy and vitality to the posture. Most importantly, energy to the spine. A balance of uprightness with relaxation. Balanced head. And how helpful it can be when beginning formal practice to deeply wish ourselves well. Connect with that deep wish for happiness that we all have. And we can start to spread this well-wishing through the body. We can start with the legs. Maybe the sense of breathing down through one of the legs. Sensitivity, awareness, even asking the question, how are you? And listening for the response, and feeling we can change if we need to. If there's some discomfort, we can make an adjustment. And repeating with the other leg, bringing the sensitivity, the sense of breathing down through the leg. Asking the question, how are you? Is there anything I can do to make you more comfortable? taking care to listen to the response. And bringing the attention up to the hips. Bringing the sensitivity and awareness to this area. Noticing if there's any tension here. Allowing it to relax to whichever degree it's able to relax. Bringing our awareness to the belly. Moving the attention to the spine, checking it's still upright. Maybe imagining it being pulled slightly upwards, gently stretching. Asking how the shoulders are. Giving our shoulders permission to relax. Sense of breathing down the arm. Noticing any tension or stress we might be holding. Giving it permission to release naturally. Repeating with the other arm. Aware of that sensitivity around the chest. Letting any tensions drop away. A sense of spaciousness within the abdomen. Spaciousness within the neck. Sensitive to the breath sensations around the neck area. Sensing our face, all those facial muscles. giving them all the chance to relax and drop with gravity. We can imagine the breath gently entering through the pores on the face and softening all those muscles. Softening the eyes, softening the jaw. And just noticing any change in the tone of the body from this body scan. Increased sense of space, lightness, ease. It's helpful to give attention to this. Helpful to enjoy this. This is a wonderful nourishment that we've discovered. And then using our own intuition, how can we learn to maintain and steady and continue nourishment from this ease and calm, stillness through the remainder of the session? What skills can we use to continue this cultivation? Perhaps continuing with a gentle body scan from the crown of the head down to the feet and back up again. Perhaps using the inner recitation of Buddho, 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 noticing the space around that inner recitation can be helpful. Perhaps resting with the breath, the whole breath in the whole body, naturally flowing through the stillness. Using our own discernment to understand the most appropriate way of practice for ourselves at this time. keep a sense of groundedness in the body, basic frame of reference for the meditation. We make an offering of our awareness. Receiving life. maybe just taking a moment to consider, while we've been getting distracted by thoughts, what's not been thinking. Where there might have been confusions, what's not been confused. Where there might have been discomfort, what stayed neutral. How is it to experience the silence within the basic sensitivity of life? as the session comes to an end, considering what we might have learnt during this period of practice. Anything that might have been supportive to peace, resting in peace. Bringing that to mind. Even if we had just one fleeting moment of calm, being grateful for that. In one fleeting moment, there can lie a great potential.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang Dhammang Sanghang Namasami. Yeah, I realize this is the second time this evening that I've mentioned this, but it's just, as I said earlier, it's just so nice to see visitors here. It's been almost 2 years exactly. It's a long time to be in for anything like this. We've had people in for the mealtime gathering for most of the pandemic, not all of it. And for some of us, or many of us, or maybe even nearly all of us, we might be saying, yeah, it took you blooming long enough. Why did it take so long? And then there might, I know I mentioned about 3 weeks ago, I mentioned to two dear friends of the monastery who live about half an hour from here, and they came to drop off some food offerings. And I mentioned the idea of, progressing into this sort of mode. And one of the two people went, "No, Ajahn, don't do it. Too soon. Don't take a chance." So, who's right? Or what's right? Has it taken too long, or is it too soon? Or is it just right? Don't know. Depends on our frame of mind. Ooh, just lost volume. Venerable. I think that might be a little bit too low because I don't think anything's coming out. Was the volume okay before? Yeah. Testing. Apparently the volume was fine before, and now it doesn't seem to be almost anything coming out.
It's pretty loud up here.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I could hear you actually. My hearing is not really...
Okay.
Yeah, the microphone is feeding back for them. It's a bit too close.
Okay, well, we'll see how we get on. This seems okay now. So, where was I? So, yeah, we can, whatever we think, and not just about being allowed to come back into the hall, come back to Chithurst, pandemics, COVIDs, sickness. It's always good to remember that it's what we're thinking, that these are thoughts, and thoughts are based on our own, and how we process information and experience is based on our own conditioning. It's conditional. And how we, what we've experienced up to this very point in our life. And so, and to maybe step back and take a more non-judgmental view. So more non-clinging to ideas, views, opinions. So there's a quite overused, I think, in my opinion, a slightly overused phrase, views and opinions. Views and opinions. And it comes from probably a translation somewhere, I can't remember which, but sometimes it can be used in a derogatory way. Well, that's just your view and opinion. But as we're even saying that, then that's actually our view and opinion. And so we all have, it's natural as human beings to have views and opinions. But if we can, and through discernment, through wisdom and through mindfulness, is to understand, well, that's all it is. That's what it is. And it might be, quote unquote, right. There might be a rightness, a relative rightness within that. There are some things that are inherent like when we get into like harming living beings and doing, basically breaking the first 4 precepts, then it gets into something different. And is it ever right to harm another living being? Is it ever right? Then we can get into debates and things like that, but I'm not going to go there tonight. So that wasn't meant to be the theme of my talk, and it's probably not going to be the theme of my talk, but it was more just here again about being allowed, or having people come back in the monastery. What a strange trip it's been, and it's still, this strange trip of pandemic is not completely over, obviously, and this is the journey that we're on. Just adapting as we go along. This is our adaptation. Right now we have, obviously it's very clear that we have visitors sitting, not intermingling with our residents, and so sooner or later that will get dropped as well. So as we progress through I suppose some people are referring to returning to normal, whatever that is. But going back to maybe using that theme of ideas, views, opinions, thoughts, and going back and investigating that a little bit, is that that can be incredibly useful. Because without ideas, where are we? There's wholesomeness. To use the intellect, to use what we've learned, what we can learn, what we are learning on an intellectual basis, to use our experiences to have an opinion. But like everything else, it's like with other forms of experience, is that having that is not the problem, it's the clinging. It's the grasping. Grasping it at our ideas, clinging, feeding that, the development of like righteousness, that I'm right, others are wrong, and there is on a mundane level that I do think that exists on a mundane level. There is there's certain things that we can do things right, we can do things wrong, and we can make mistakes. So on a mundane level. But here again, even if we are quote-unquote right, if we're clinging to that and maybe forming a sense of identity, clinging to our own rightness, and then this can develop what's called righteous indignation. It's a bit of a mouthful. To have that righteousness and to be relating to both ourselves and other people through the lenses of righteousness, is that going to be comfortable? Is that going to be a fruitful way of living? And then the other forms of experience, or the other aspects of experience, where here again all forms of experience if it's the clinging is the problem. If clinging is the problem, so this is where. How many times have we heard the phrase, you gotta let go, you gotta let go. And even before I stumbled into Buddha Dhamma 30 years ago, there was already that phrase, people would say, you're clinging, stop being so clingy, stop clinging, you got to let go, man. Now, whether those people were speaking from a Dhamma perspective, I don't know. My recollection is they probably weren't. But there was the aspect of discernment and panya, wisdom there, in a way, because if that's the problem. So there's a lovely expression in English, a Dhamma expression, so when the clinging stops, so that peace is when the clinging stops, when the grasping stops. And so this evening for the resident community, I've been, a couple of us have been offering in-house, just for the resident community, sutta study classes, which are optional for the resident community, and just reflecting on that idea, or at least the way that I find useful of relating to clinging, is does non-clinging, does non-grasping mean non-presence? Does that mean that things disappear? So let's say we're clinging at some sort of, whatever, whether it's an idea, an opinion, an experience, a sense of identity, you name it. Whatever we're grasping, do we need to completely eradicate the experience to realize peace? Or can there be peace with that experience? Can we realize that spaciousness? So Venerable Dear Bodhi, I might misquote him, so I do apologize, Venerable, but during the meditation, so what is it, that's not, what is it that knows or is not, I'll use my own word, disturbance, or something arising. It's that quality, or you can't even call it quality, that knowingness, that consciousness, awareness, that is aware, is conscious of the clinging, conscious of an experience that one is grasping. Be that a positive, lovely, delightful, likable experience, or let's look at the converse, unwanted, unlikable, unpeaceful, painful experience. So the more we can turn to recognize and turn towards the element, or the knowingness, the consciousness, awareness that recognizes those experiences and lets them arise and cease and linger. Lets them do that instead of recognizing them and wrestling with the ones we don't want, pushing, trying to eradicate in a way that oftentimes I know, at least for myself, that it's putting an energy into it which almost it makes it worse. And this is like the Pali term vibhavatanha, that annihilation element. You're trying to annihilate, to push away, to get rid of. And then the grasping and clinging. So at trying to get, that's a form of grasping. Trying to push away, you're clinging in a way. You're clinging to the idea. One way of looking at it, that you're grasping it to push it away. You're grasping at the idea that you have to get it away. So if I have this firmly rooted or belief that I need to get rid of this before I'm okay, this experience, this habit, this tendency needs to be completely never arise again, completely eradicated, so that these impulses never ever arise in my mind. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think that's it. But can we allow impulses, can we allow things to come and go, arise into consciousness, arise into awareness, arise into our experience? Yeah, and not cling, not have to kill it, not have to, and the positive ones not have to grasp it, not have to try and keep it, not to have to recreate it. And that's one of the things I find with meditation. The mistake I made in the first several years of meditating was trying to recreate peaceful meditations from the past. I had this, you have an experience, maybe really pleasant, and then, both bodily and or bodily, emotionally, mentally. And then try to recreate that. And if the conditions aren't right for that experience to arise again, then they're not going to arise again. And then we can feel all sorts of things: disappointment, failure, whatever. We can feel sense of lack, a sense of feeling that that was not a quote-unquote good meditation because I didn't have that peaceful experience. But I would suggest that to maybe look into that, because if we're labeling meditation, judging meditation as good and bad, and is that really going to be helpful? Because what if we spend an hour watching, noticing, recognizing the arising and ceasing of unwanted mind states? Would we label that a bad meditation? Or can we actually take delight in the fact that we noticed, we recognized? It's the knowing, that awareness. So right now the sutta that we're investigating in our sutta study class is the Satipatthana Sutta. Probably most typically translated as the Four Foundations of Mindfulness, but there's a couple of others, in particular other translations of the title that I find resonate more with for me, and that's four establishments of mindfulness or frames of reference is another one, I think, and apparently they're more in tune with what the Pali means. But whatever, not to get caught up in translations. And it's using four frames of reference within our human experience to be able to investigate experience. And so the first frame or establishment is mindfulness established in the body. That's established in the body. The second one is the mindfulness established in feeling. Vedana, feeling. And the third is the establishment on mind states, so and emotions, So the heart-mind, thoughts and emotions. And then the fourth is established mindfulness. Mindfulness established in like phenomena, but using, it's very specific. It's laying out different Dhamma teachings that the Buddha gave to use as a framework to investigate that. So using Four Noble Truths, etc., to explore that experience. And I find it a very interesting teaching. Obviously, I'm not going to give a big... I couldn't give an in-depth talk on this in one talk. And I'm probably not experienced enough to give a super in-depth exploration. So this is going to be a much more broad stroke. But one of the takeaways for me with this sutta is that in all of the four are quite, they have certain aspects which are very repetitive, where you just change it from body to feeling to mind objects and then phenomena. And the takeaway for me is that it keeps going back to this quality of knowing, the knowingness. So starting with the body, starting with the breath. So anapanasati, meditation, mindfulness of the in and out breath is part of the body establishment. Walking meditation, standing meditation, lying meditation, every posture, every movement, stretching the arm, right? Flexing the arm, moving forward, moving back, anything to do with the body. And so it's just that simple establishing our mindfulness within that. So, and it doesn't mean that we're completely oblivious to feelings and oblivious to emotions, but our reference, and this is where I think that term frames of reference, our reference is, okay, let's go back to the actual sensation of the body. So, as I was saying earlier this evening in the sutta study class, so I could say, well, let's say there's a particular temperature that I'm picking up on. If I focus on the temperature of my hands in the air here, and right now I'm finding the temperature absolutely comfortable, so it's completely neutral. So that would be going into feeling. So if I found it unpleasant, like let's say, because I don't like cold, so that would go into feeling, pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral feeling. But if I notice that I am going into feeling, just, okay, well right now I'm focusing on just the experience of the sensation of coolness or comfort. Just the sensation of, okay, this is just right. Or if you're doing breath meditation, you're just the sensation of the breath entering and leaving the body. So non-judgmental, not judging it, saying, oh, well, you're breathing too deeply, or you should be breathing slower, or you should be breathing quicker, or blah, blah, blah. No, you just know, you're breathing. You just, this simple, absolutely simple, basic knowledge or awareness of breathing. And then we can start to refine that and breathe. Okay, am I breathing in? Okay, just know you're breathing in. We're right in the present moment. And when we breathe out, we know we're breathing out. And then we can refine that more as as it says in the sutta, you're breathing in long or breathing in short, or it goes up and down like that. It goes through a short list of knowing, what the breath is. but basic. It's just very simple. But the repetitive word is knowing. Not judging, not trying to control, although there is a place for that sometimes. Not trying to create. And so these are exercises. We start with something really tangible like the body. The mind and the heart can be really, really fleeting. The experience of the intellect and the emotional world can be all over the shop, super quick. Absolutely, like lightning. Body is also changing, obviously, everything changing. But I find myself, in my own experience, is that it's much more tangible. Much more tangible. So I think from my own practice, I use the breath meditation, I use body contemplations as a starting point. I think most of us, maybe all of us, do the same. Stabilizing the bodily formations, which will then have a positive effect, by knowing. And as Ajahn Chah, who I never met, but I've studied his teachings. He would often use the phrase to know and to let go. To know, so you that knowing quality, and then can you let it go? Which is another way of saying non-grasping. So, as I reflect, going back to what I said about 10-15 minutes ago, and I posed it as a question, does non-grasping necessarily mean non-presence? So the example, I can really cling and grasp at this glass that I'm holding in my hand, or I can hold it just enough for it to serve its purpose, so to get the water to my mouth. And if I'm, like right now, I am clinging to it quite tightly, and my knuckles have gone white. My hand is already, just in a few seconds, starting to fatigue. It's not comfortable. This is not earth-shatteringly uncomfortable, but it's not comfortable. And if it was time, like, for me to go back to my kuti, go back to my hut, I need to let go. I need to put it down. So it's just knowing how much to hold things. So now I'm not grasping, but the glass is still in my hand. And I use the example with more dangerous things, like if we're handling something that's potentially harmful, knives, tools, or picking something up. I know there's a particular tree near my family home in California. For the life of me, I can't remember the name of the tree, but it produces a nut that's in a casing, which is it looks like a mini porcupine, and if you can pick them up carefully, but if you pick it up and even just squeeze a little bit, because they're really sharp, they're really small, they're not big spines like a porcupine, but they're really tiny, and they hurt. They hurt. So I remember once I did pick one up and I wanted to take it back to my family at the home, and it's about a 15-minute walk from there, a 20-minute walk. And I carried it carefully. Now, it could have hurt me if I cling to it. Now, I'm using a pretty obvious example. But, maybe reflect on that example and say, well, yeah, can I hold experience with just enough energy to deal with it, and to deal with it in a good way. Because difficult things come our way. and delightful things come our way. And if we grab either one with the inappropriate energy, they both hurt. I know it didn't make any sense to me when I first heard that hanging on to the delightful was problematic in any way, or could be problematic. It just didn't make any sense to me. I was like, it's not right. But on reflection, at least my own take on it, yeah, hang on to the delightful inappropriately, and it's painful, because when we really penetrate, or starting, even just beginning to penetrate the ephemeral, impermanent, moving nature of all experience, you can't freeze it. You can't freeze it in time. We can nurture, we can cultivate, we can be creative, we can bring things, really, really good things into being, and its opposite. They're all brought into being. And so this is where, if we do understand, like penetrating the Buddha's teachings around impermanence, around dukkha, around the unsatisfactory nature of experience, that doesn't need to be a wet blanket realization. That can be the very thing that loosens our grip on life in a wholesome way, in a helpful way, in a way that leads towards peace. It's just, just investigate our own lives up until this point. We can also learn from the past. Learning from the past, if done well with discernment, is not being lost in the past. It's learning. It's reflecting. That's, if we're doing it with discernment, we are still in the here and now. Sometimes we can make the mistake of thinking that being in the here and now means we never think about the past, never think about the future. But no, we can learn, we can plan, we can do that mindfully, and to develop that panya, discernment, wise, wisdom element. Then this opens up, excuse me. This can really open up the heart, open up the mind, to allow experiences to come and go freely. Yes, cultivate, don't just wait for things to happen. Yes, if there's, let's do something. Use this opportunity as a human being. We can use our lives skillfully, cultivate, bring into being, and if it's done with wholesome intentions, not just wholesome intentions, because we can set our eyes on a goal, and then make sure that the process is done wholesomely. Always keeping the eye on, is this a wholesome intention? Is my intention for the well-being of myself and others? Are my actions to try and bring this about, are they all in line with wholesome qualities? Do they fit within the domain of the 5 precepts? Because if we might have a good intention to bring about some particular result, but if it's brought about in a unwholesome way, then that doesn't fulfill all the factors that are necessary for full wholesomeness. So yeah, using, here again, developing consciousness, awareness, mindfulness, and developing these qualities so that we see these sticking points, the sticking point of grasping at the wanted and the delightful, the sticking point of grasping at the unwanted and undelightful. That sticking point of grasping at anything, clinging at anything, holding things just enough. The other analogy I've used quite often is like using a ladder as a tool. So ladders are for going up, getting up to high places, or getting down from high places. So I don't know about anybody else, but when I use a ladder, I hang on pretty darn tight. I'm not haphazard. I have fallen down a ladder before. It hurt. I hit my head on every rung on the way down. It was a long time ago. So, but as you move, as things shift, you let go. You hang on tight. You let go. You hang on tight. You let go. You hang on tight. You just hang on long enough and tight enough to do what you are trying to do, or what's necessary to do. And then when you get to the top or the bottom, do you just stay hanging on to the rungs? No, if you're where you need to go, either you leave the ladder where it is if it needs to stay where it is, or you pick it up and put it away. But do we carry it around with us? So this is quite inspired from the simile of the raft, the Buddha's teaching about crossing over to the other shore, meaning indicating nibbana, that nibbana element, in awakened awareness, full awakening element. It's the raft, the Dhamma raft. But when you get to the other shore, do you carry the raft around? So it's the same. It's what it was inspired by. But using these images, there is a place for you exerting ourselves and not just being not just thinking that we can never exert ourselves. Knowing the true measure of what's needed, what's appropriate. And just to close off before ending this sharing is, just to repeat, because I feel it's one of the key takeaways is, using all these practices that we are developing, the mindfulness and remembering, recollecting that these are tools to something much bigger, to the boundless qualities, the measureless qualities. So using conditions, using the conditions and the teachings. These are all conditions, they're words, conditioned. Using them, applying them, these are our aids, these are our tools. And not to cling to them, not to overly grasp and lose sight of the bigger, of the goal, of that nibbana element, that full release of being able to abide, with whatever experience comes our way, and to experience the full range of emotions and thoughts that a human being is subject to, the full range, and remain okay, where there's enough steadiness in the system, because this measureless, boundless consciousness and awareness, it has no edge. It has no edge, and as I've said many times in the past, and I'm consciously, repeating myself, is there anything that's too big? If something is boundless, if consciousness and awareness, if the heart-mind actually has no, if consciousness awareness has no edge, has no boundary, then what is too big to be experienced? What's too big? What emotion, what thought is too delightful or too horrible to be able to arise and cease in awareness, arise and cease in consciousness, and not be survived, to remain unshaken. The things inside consciousness and awareness are shaking, they're trembling, they're moving. It can be a whole tsunami of inner stuff. But that which knows, that which is aware, what's that? Has that shaken? And to ask those types of questions and reflect. Because if something has come into being, obviously wasn't always there. Was our awareness functioning before it came into being? And if things are moving, well, things do move, when we're aware that it's ceased, where is our awareness gone? Awareness, is it still there? Did awareness move? Did awareness change? Or did things in awareness move and change? So these are questions, to ask questions like that, to ask questions like where is the edge of awareness? Where is the edge of consciousness? This says the Buddha used the phrase only a couple of times, Vijnanang Anidasanang, and there's several translations, but sort of consciousness that's not really, it doesn't manifest, you can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't taste it, you can't touch it, you can't define it, but it's consciousness. It's just that, consciousness. Isn't it? It's invisible, unmanifest, without mark. And experiences arise and cease within that. And if we can taste that, and we all can, and probably already have, if we can taste that, and then the more we taste it, the more we can turn to that. That'll be our resting place. That'll be our dwelling place. Lofty thoughts, lofty encouragement, but let's let's aim. Let's use the Buddha's teachings and the Buddha's encouragement. He was encouraging us to go all the way. He was teaching, he was offering tools leading to Nibbana. And it's up to us how much we apply them and how much energy and effort we put in to use the conditions that we have right now, the privilege that we have right now, being safe, being in this hall and being, whether we're here or at home or wherever we are, if we have the opportunity to practice, to really to use that, because as we know that not everybody does have that opportunity. So I think I've said more than enough this evening. I'll leave it there.